BingX, a trusted global crypto exchange. Trade spot, futures, or copy top traders easily. Sign up via the link or referral code to get 30 USDT instantly, plus up to 1,500 USDT in bonuses for verification, deposit, and trading.
A damning internal review has concluded that the Metropolitan Police's very culture makes racial harm to black people inevitable, with leadership and organizational design actively shielding the force from meaningful reform. This extensive report, authored by Dr. Shireen Daniels and released on Friday, meticulously analyzes internal documents and evidence, painting a stark picture of systemic issues that persist despite years of criticism. The Met has acknowledged the long-standing evidence of racism and discrimination within Britain's largest police force, but this latest review suggests the problem runs far deeper than isolated incidents. Dr. Daniels emphasized that her investigation is the first to specifically target the institution's anti-blackness, moving beyond individual scandals to examine the fundamental structures that perpetuate harm. The report, titled 30 Patterns of Harm, asserts that the force's design inherently guarantees the recurring nature of racial detriment. This finding comes just 2 years after a separate inquiry by Louise Casey labeled the Met as institutionally racist, a characterization then Commissioner Dame Cressida Dick controversially refused to accept, though she conceded systemic failings. The 30 Patterns of Harm report unequivocally states that anti-black outcomes in policing are not accidental but are deliberately built in. It highlights a consistent pattern where the pain inflicted on black communities, particularly concerning stop and search practices, is rooted in suspicion rather than observed wrongdoing. The report provocatively states, the Met doesn't wait for wrongdoing. It waits for justification. Furthermore, it reveals that coercive tactics and force are disproportionately applied to black individuals compared to their white counterparts, with stop and search effectively transforming streets into checkpoints and treating blackness itself as probable cause. Dr. Daniels articulated the review's core finding. It examines the institution itself, showing how the Met's systems, governance, leadership and culture produce racial harm, whilst simultaneously protecting the institution from reform. This is not an account of individual incidents but a diagnosis of the structures that makes racial harm a consistent recurring pattern. She further described the Met as possessing an advanced repertoire for evading genuine change, a pattern consistent with a long history of critical inquiries that have yielded little lasting reform. This latest report echoes decades of warnings. As far back as 1999, the McPherson Report, prompted by the murder of Stephen Lawrence, identified institutional racism as a pervasive issue within the force. Dr. Daniels' review specifically criticizes current Metropolitan Police Commissioner Sir Mark Rowley for his refusal to adopt the term institutional racism, which he has labeled as political and unclear. The report directly challenges this stance, stating, "This is how clarity is framed as political, and the power to name harm is surrendered to institutional comfort." Dr. Daniels elaborated on the implications of this avoidance, explaining, "This entire body of work demonstrates how institutional racism operates in practice. It traces how racial harm becomes built into systems, behaviors and leadership norms that normalize discrimination and protect the organization from consequence." The question is no longer whether the Met can say the words, but whether it can change the cultural, leadership and operational conditions that make those words true. The Met has faced recent scrutiny following revelations of pervasive racism and misogyny, captured by a BBC undercover investigation at Charing Cross Police Station in October. While officers have been dismissed in the wake of these revelations, Dr. Daniels insists this scandal is symptomatic of a broader cultural issue, asserting that the Charing Cross incident was a product of the Met's culture itself and the way it is designed. Commissioner Sir Mark Rowley, now 3 years into his 5-year tenure aimed at wholesale reform, responded to the report, acknowledging its power and the need for further systemic, structural, and cultural change. He stated, "I asked for a review focused on the Met and black communities, which challenges us to go further in becoming an actively anti-racist organization. London is a unique global city, and the Met will only truly deliver policing by consent when it is inclusive and anti-racist." He pointed to initiatives like a new Met for London and the London Race Action Plan as steps toward progress, noting a 10% improvement in trust among black Londoners over 2 years. though acknowledging it still lags behind other communities. Sir Mark pledged accountability for leaders and reiterated the commitment to removing individuals guilty of discrimination, highlighting ongoing efforts to address corruption within the force. However, the National Black Police Association has voiced skepticism, suggesting that the commissioner himself may be an impediment to change. They argue that despite Baroness Casey's similar findings 2 years prior, the situation has worsened, with trust and confidence among black officers, staff, and communities continuing to erode. The association claims Sir Mark is operating within an echo chamber, surrounded by individuals who reinforce a narrative of progress while the structures enabling institutional racism remain intact. A spokesperson for the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, who holds oversight of the Met, confirmed that systemic and cultural issues within the force remain unaddressed. The mayor is clear that Sir Mark and his senior leadership need to reframe their approach to accelerate the pace of cultural reform and deliver the necessary structural change across the force. The persistent findings of racial harm, coupled with a culture seemingly resistant to fundamental change, continue to cast a long shadow over the Metropolitan Police's commitment to serving all communities equitably.